There's that certain buzz you get in the tech world, right? That whisper about what's coming next, even before anything's official.
Oh, yeah, the rumor mill kicking into high gear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And today, we're going to dive into that future. We're looking at a really detailed preview of a phone that isn't even out yet, the OnePlus 15 Pro. Our main source for this is MyFusion Mobile. They've pulled together some pretty fascinating specs that have leaked out.
It's quite something, yeah.
So our mission today basically is to sift through all this pre-release info, pull out the key stuff, and get you properly informed about what this new OnePlus might actually offer. Think of it as your shortcut to understanding maybe the next big thing from them. See where the whole flagship killer idea is headed these days.
And what's really interesting here is getting such a comprehensive look, isn't it, for something that's still officially upcoming and not announced yet. It lets us kind of look at the reported features, see how they fit into the bigger smartphone picture, and give you a solid preview of what OnePlus might be cooking up.
Right. So based on what MyFusion Mobile is saying,
Right.
what is the OnePlus 15 Pro shaping up to be? What's the basic idea?
Well, the source confirms it's an upcoming phone from OnePlus, obviously, not out yet. They're expecting it to land in India at around $700 US-ish.
Ish, right. That's always the way.
Exactly. And previous OnePlus phones, that price will probably shift depending on the specific version, RAM, storage, that kind of stuff. But $700 gives us a starting point.
Okay, cool. Let's jump to the bit you actually interact with most, the screen, the build,
Yeah.
what you're looking at and holding. MyFusion Mobile highlights a pretty big 6.75-inch AMOLED display. It's got 120 hertz refresh rate, 1264 by 2780 pixels resolution, HDR10 plus matte, Dolby Atmos. A lot of buzzwords there.
Yeah, quite a list.
So what does all that mean for someone using it, like for watching videos or just scrolling?
Well, basically, all those specs add up to a really immersive, vibrant, and super smooth experience. That 120 hertz refresh rate, it just makes everything glide. Scrolling, gaming, it feels much more responsive, less blurry. And AMOLED means you get those really deep blacks and bright, punchy colors, great for media. Then you add HDR10 Plus and Dolby Atmos. It makes movies and games feel, more cinematic, more engaging.
Okay, so the screen sounds top-notch. Then there's what you're actually holding. The source says glass front, plastic frame, plastic back. But then it adds IPX8 water resistant up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. And an armor aluminum frame advertised as tougher. And even stylus support.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really weird mix. Like plastic frame but armor aluminum and stylus support. What's going on there?
It is an interesting combination, isn't it? The IPX8 rating is genuinely useful, means it can handle a dunk in water, which is great peace of mind.
Definitely.
The armor aluminum frame part is key, I think. It suggests they're focusing the toughness on the core structure. Even if the back is plastic, maybe to save cost or weight, it's about perceived durability where it counts.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense.
Yeah.
Structure over surface.
Sort of, yeah. And the stylus support is, it's a bit of a surprise for OnePlus, but it definitely hints at wanting to add more productivity features. Plus, it still has dual SIM capability, which is handy. Oh, and MyFusion Mobile notes it's made in China, comes in black, probably other colors too eventually.
Right, standard stuff there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the really geeky stuff, the performance. Android 14 with OxygenOS 14, powered by the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 3.
Yeah.
We know the chip is powerful, but what about OxygenOS? Does that still offer that sort of clean, fast experience people liked OnePlus for? How might it use that chip?
Well, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 is, the current king of the hill for Android chips. It's proper flagship stuff. And it's not just about speed. It's about enabling all the fancy AI features phones have now. Photo improvements, smarter assistants, even really high-end gaming. MyFusion Mobile gives the technical details, the core counts and stuff. But for you listening, it just means this phone should be seriously fast and pretty efficient. It can handle demanding apps, games, multitasking. Should be a real powerhouse. It definitely puts it up against the most expensive phones out there in terms of raw connectability. How OxygenOS 14 specifically optimizes it, we'd have to see, but historically, OnePlus aims for smoothness.
And memory. It lists 12 GB or even 16 GB of RAM and storage up to 512 GB. How important is that much RAM these days? Is 12 GB overkill or is it actually needed?
Honestly, with modern apps and how people multitask, 12 GB is becoming pretty standard for high-end, and 16 GB gives you even more headroom. It means you can jump between a load of apps without them constantly needing to reload, which can be really annoying. Everything just stays smoother.
Yeah, I hate that reloading thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And having up to 512 GB of storage means you probably won't have to worry about deleting photos or apps for a long, long time. You can just load it up. Basically gets rid of storage anxiety.
Okay, good point. All right, let's talk cameras. The source details a main camera with a 50-megapixel lens and then a 2-megapixel lens, plus the usual stuff flash, HDR, panorama, video at 1440p. And for selfies, a 20-megapixel camera that can do 4K video. Now, that 50MP main sounds good, but the 2MP secondary, that often feels like it's just there to bump up the camera count, doesn't it?
That's a very fair point. The 50-megapixel main sensor should capture a lot of detail. That's the hook. That 2MP lens. Yeah, typically it's either a depth sensor to help with portrait mode blur or maybe a basic macro lens for close-ups. The source doesn't actually specify what it does here.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the 50MP sensor will likely be doing almost all the heavy lifting for standard photos. The HDR and panorama features are pretty standard additions, but that selfie camera doing 4K video, that is quite nice. Good for high-quality video calls or if you're into vlogging or creating content. That's definitely a plus.
All right, that's actually pretty useful. Okay, battery life and staying connected, super important. It's apparently got a 5100 mAh battery, Li-ion, with 33W wired charging. 5100 mAh sounds pretty big. What does that translate to in terms of, like, getting through a day? And is 33W charging actually fast anymore?
5100 mAh is a good size, yeah. For most people, even if you use your phone quite a bit, that should comfortably last a full day, maybe even longer for lighter users.
Okay.
Now, 33W charging, it's not the absolute fastest out there. Some phones are pushing crazy numbers, like over 100W.
Right, like plugging in for 10 minutes gives you half a day kind of thing.
Exactly. 33W isn't that, but it's still reasonably quick. You plug it in for, say, half an hour, you'll get a significant boost, enough to get you through several more hours if you're running low. It's decent, just not record-breaking.
Gotcha. Decent is fine. And connectivity, all the Wi-Fi standards up to Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.3, lots of GPS systems, NFC, and importantly 5G, including Sansa and millimeter wave, specifically mentioning USA bands. Okay, break that down. Wi-Fi 7, millimeter wave.
Yeah.
Sansa, what's the big deal there?
Okay, so this is all about being future-proof and getting the best possible speeds. Wi-Fi 7 is the next big step for home and office wireless. Faster, more stable connections. Millimeter wave, or millimeter 5G, that's the really, really fast version of 5G. Think gigabit speeds on your phone.
Wow.
Yeah, but the catch is it has short range and doesn't go through walls well, so you mainly find it in dense urban areas, stadiums, places like that. Having it means you can access those speeds where available.
Oh, okay, so situational.
Very situational, yeah.
Ooh.
And Sansa, standalone and non-standalone. Basically, it means the phone is ready for the current 5G networks, and the next phase as carriers build out purely 5G infrastructure ensures compatibility moving forward. It's good future-proofing.
Makes sense. Okay, beyond the main specs, there are some interesting sensors listed. Under-display fingerprint, accelerometer, gyro, compass, the usual suspects, but also a color spectrum sensor and a barometer. Those aren't standard on every phone. What could they actually do for you?
Right. The fingerprint sensor under the screen is pretty standard now for a clean look and easy unlocking. But those other two are interesting. A color spectrum sensor? That's quite cool. It could potentially help the phone better understand the ambient light.
How so?
Well, it could lead to more accurate white balance in photos, making colors look more natural, or maybe even help automatically adjust the screen's colors to match your environment perfectly. Subtle, but potentially really nice.
Huh. Okay. And the barometer, isn't that for weather?
Yeah, it measures air pressure, so it can give you elevation data useful for fitness tracking if you're hiking or cycling, or for apps that use altitude. It can also help with more localized weather predictions sometimes. Again, niche, but adds extra capability.
Neat little extras. So, My Fusion Mobile wraps up their preview with their own rating, 8.6 out of 10 overall, and they give specific high scores, 9 out of 10 for design, display, performance, and battery. What does that tell us, coming from them, even before release?
Well, getting consistent 9s in those key areas, how it looks, the screen, the speed, and how long it lasts, that's a strong signal. It suggests that, at least on paper, based on these specs, My Fusion Mobile sees this as a really well-rounded device hitting the marks that matter most to users.
Right.
It lines up with what we've discussed: powerful chip, great display specs, large battery. It suggests OnePlus might have nailed the core elements, even with those interesting material choices we talked about. It shows where their priorities might lie.
Yeah, balancing those priorities. So wrapping this deep dive up, you should now have a pretty solid picture of what this upcoming OnePlus 15 Pro could be bringing to the table. Powerful chip, great looking screen, potentially solid battery, advanced connectivity, even those slightly unusual sensors. Looks like it's aiming high.
Absolutely. And looking at this kind of pre-release info, connecting it to the wider market, it's really valuable, I think. It helps you see the direction things are heading, gives you context for when you're maybe thinking about your next phone, or even just helps you appreciate the tech evolving.
Correct.
But it does make you think, doesn't it? We can look at all these specs on paper for an upcoming phone, but how much of the actual experience of using it does that capture? What else comes into play once you actually have the phone in your hand? The software optimization, the camera tuning, the feel of it.
Yeah, the stuff beyond the spec sheet.
Right.
Something for you to chew on as you think about where tech is going. Keep that curiosity fired up.